Hi, everybody. Mark here with Couch to Camino 2026. I apologize. You might be able to hear some noise today. We've got some major stuff going on. There's a couple of guys running around with an excavator and a skid loader loading dumpsters right outside. If you remember last week, we talked about lodging. Lodging became kind of fore in our thoughts because this happened.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So now I get to build a new house. Anyway, so this week, where are we at? We're at day 205, 205 days before we leave. At least I leave. I don't know if you're leaving. We are going to talk today about nutrition. This is not going to be the in-depth on Spanish food culture and restaurant and bar culture. This is going to be more of how do I fuel the machine. It's going to be very vague, ish. But kind of like if you said, hey, how do I walk the Camino? And I just say, well, you start wherever and you just head east. And I don't know, to you. Can you hear that? Wow. You just head east until you get to Santiago. So broad strokes. Again, I'm going to remind you to, if you have any questions, ask them down below. Or if you want to have a little more in-depth conversation, you can email me at askmeacaminoquestion@gmail.com. And we can have a little chat there if you're a little more comfortable with that. So talking about nutrition today, keep in mind, I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I'm just a person who's done almost 3,000 miles of hiking. I've got some good experience under my belt, and I've had my issues here and there with nutrition along the way and running out of energy, and I'm going to try to keep you from going through the same stuff I went through. So we'll get into that. Today's Too Long Didn't Listen. Again, number one, I'm not a doctor. I'm a bit of an idiot who walks in Spain, so take my advice at your own risk. The most important part of this is tasty, nutritious food is plentiful all along the Camino. You're going to begin the day, you're going to end the day with a chance for a good meal or to grab what food you might want to have throughout the day. Throughout the day, you're going to have chances for meals. There's food everywhere. It's not an experience like we think about hiking here in the States where you have to pack along a good 5 to 7 days of food. You don't have to. You can pack along a snack, pack along an extra meal if you decide that you need to. The one caveat to that is in the winter from, say, November to March-ish, a lot of the restaurants and bars are going to be closed because it's off-season for the Camino and there's not enough customers, pilgrims, coming through to really justify keeping open. So you may want to, especially like in December, January, February, with all the holidays that come as well, pack an extra meal with you, pack an extra snack with you. Just be prepared that depending on what day it is, XYZ, you may not have a chance for quite the meal you would hope for. So pack a little extra. On the flip side of that, during the summer, if you're there from, say, April to early September, you're going to run into something called the Pilgrim's meal. These are meals that are offered for the Pilgrim community all along the way. Small bars, restaurants, restaurants and bars, everything. You're going to see signs out front of the places that'll say Pilgrim's meal. Keep in mind that most restaurants and such, the full dinner, evening meal, they may not start serving until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. The Pilgrim's meals sometimes can be offered as early as 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They're specifically for the pilgrims to be able to get a good meal in and get to bed before the Spanish restaurants open. Typically, it's going to be a 3-course meal, a starter, a main course, and a dessert. Desserts are usually very light. There's good proteins. They're typically good meals. So 3 courses, a bottle of water, a bottle of wine, sometimes a bottle of water and a bottle of wine, usually for between 10 and 15 euros. It's usually a good amount of food, and I've really never been overly disappointed with one of the Pilgrim's meals I've gotten. But I have pretty low standards when I'm just trying to fuel the machine. So number 2, if you have a special diet due to allergens or ethical concerns, if you have an allergy to nuts or any of that, like go to the hospital style allergy issues, or you're a vegan or a vegetarian for ethical concerns, consider printing a card and having it laminated in French and Spanish if you're going to start in Saint-Jean. And don't be shy if you're having a bit of a language barrier with a waiter or waitress. Give them the card. Say, hey, I can't have X, Y, or Z, or I avoid meat products, whatever your dietary restriction is. The easier you make it for that waiter or waitress to help you, the easier your time is going to be. Make it easy for them, and they're going to make it easy for you. So, a nice printed card, and don't just go off Google Translate. You have plenty of time. We've still got, 6.5 months. You have plenty of time to find a person near you or in your community that may speak good, legible, fluent Spanish. Have them give you the stuff, print it, and have it laminated. In 2018, in Zubiri, we met a young woman from Ireland. She was a vegan for ethical concerns. She actually had a card that gave her her dietary considerations in French, Spanish, Italian, and German because she'd be traveling around so much. I thought it was a brilliant way to go. We saw her many times whip it out, and the waiter would read it and go, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll do something for you." So just something to make it a little easier. If you're on another type of special diet, this is number 3. If you're if you're into keto, if you're into hardcore carnivore, any of those restrictive diets, it is very possible to do the Camino. You may have some rough times finding what you need. Be prepared to be flexible. Be prepared to cook for yourself in the albergues if you need to. Be prepared to carry some extra food along with you, especially if you're keto. Like canned fish and oil is really, really common in the Spanish diet. So most even the little tiendas, you can find some sardines, anchovies, something that's big noises, something that's going to allow you to get that protein and fat in that you need for your diet. Just be flexible enough to work with Spain to make sure you get what you need. Just getting frustrated and saying, well, I can't eat here. You can. It's just going to take extra work. If you're doing one of those diets because it's kind of fun, but you don't have serious health considerations attached to it, if it's possible, you might consider going off of that for a more balanced carb, protein, fat diet for your Camino. I know about burning, becoming fat adapted and all that stuff, but from my experience and what I've read, and even going on to the American hiking forums, it's kind of hard sometimes when you're 3 weeks into a big hike. Sometimes you have to take a couple extra down days to recover because that recovery process is a little bit slower. And that depletion of your body's resources, it works over a 24 to 48 hour cycle. So just consider being flexible. You can do it. I know lots of people have. I spoke to somebody when I was there in 2024 who was doing it. She was having a great time. So just be flexible. Okay, the last one, number 4. Be aware, and this is something we touched about in number 2, whatever, number 1 with the Pilgrim's meals. Spanish restaurant culture and food culture is not the same as American food culture. If you're a person who is deeply attached to your morning bacon and eggs, you may have a rough go. Now, those are from my experience, it's a little more common to find them in the summer months because there are a lot of sorry, I got a phone call coming in, but I'm going to ignore it. There are a lot of Americans in English that walk the Camino, so heavy bacon or heavy egg and meat breakfasts are more prevalent, seem to be more prevalent in the summertime. If you're in the fall, spring, winter, it's going to be rougher to find those things. So if that's just such a big part of your life now, consider starting to shift to something a little more flexible for Spain. Spanish breakfasts, especially, they are not heavy fat protein based. They tend to be a cup of coffee and a pastry, a nice big piece of toast with either butter and jam or dried ham and tomatoes, something like that. We'll get really in depth with that when we get into the spring and talking about the restaurant culture. The other thing is be aware that the places that you're going to get your morning nutrition may not open till about 6. So if you're going to start extra early, think about that the night before. Maybe have a snack for the morning. The Spanish restaurants for late night dining, even in the smaller villages, they may not be open till 8 or 9 o'clock. So if your daily plan is to be in bed by 7 and you're in the off season where they don't have the Pilgrim's meals, you may want to, while you're at lunch, when you stop for lunch, get an extra sandwich, go to the market, get an extra bit of food that you can have ready for the evening. Sorry, there's a lot going on out there. I probably shouldn't be doing this today, but there's not a lot else for me to do today. Okay, so restaurants, late, be flexible, carry the extra food if you think you need it, and just be willing to work with Spain, and Spain is going to be willing to work with you. So that's the TLDL. The important thing is, however you need to fuel the machine, make sure you can fuel the machine in the way you're most comfortable. You don't want to run out of energy in the middle of a hike. And as I said, your energy reserves that your body is burning to keep your muscles working. And again, we're doing a half a marathon at minimum for a lot of people, a half marathon a day, every day for 30 days. Your body's resources are going to start going seriously down. It's one of the reasons why the Camino is actually a really terrible way to lose weight. You're going to be burning muscle. You're going to be burning fat, quite a bit of fat. But the downside is, as you're going, your system is going to try to adapt to it. It's going to make you hungrier. It's going to make you crave different things. So just be aware, deal with it, and we'll talk more about that in the ramble here coming up. But the number one takeaway is there's lots of food. Whatever your dietary consideration is, you're going to be able to do what you need to do. Just understand that it may take you a week or two to figure out how Spain works enough to work for your individual dietary needs. Fuel the machine, keep walking, keep hydrated. You're going to have a great time. So that's it for the TLDL. Now let's get on to the ramble. Today's ramble will lead with one of my favorite things in Spain, one of my favorite drinks in Spain, which I'm not going to do right now because it is 8:25 in the morning, so I'll be filming that a little later and then splicing it in because I don't want to die this morning. And then after that, we're going to talk at the very end about one of my favorite little restaurants. And it's kind of surprising. It's not a place a lot of people, I think a lot of pilgrims go, but it's one of my favorite places. So excuse the change of perspective. I want to make sure I could get the table in for this. So this week's my favorite thing is a drink from Pamplona. Legend says it was created in about 1976 at a university party. Let me show you what it is. Glass of ice. Hey, Coke. And I'm not making this up. This really is my favorite thing to drink. Glass of ice. Get our marketing department correct, Gus. And red wine. This is the legendary Kalimotxo. Kalimotxo. I'll put the spelling up. Like I said, this was invented in 1976. Supposedly, these two guys grabbed some really bad wine. This is not really bad wine. This is a pretty good Rioja. You'll see this all around Logroño and such. It's one of my favorites. I've bought this for as little as 3-4 euros a bottle. But anyway, the Kalimotxo, it was a party drink. Now it is commonly drunk. It's a younger people thing. A lot of bartenders laugh at me when I get it. You can find it in other parts of Spain. When you get down south, they just kind of go, no, we don't do that here. That's a northern thing. I will point out that my friend Donna from 2017 found out that in France, this is more or less a culinary hate crime. We were at a beachside village called Cancal, and she went to a place where they sell hot dogs and fries of all places, all things. And she ordered, she wanted a Kalimotxo, and they were very confused at what it was. She said, it's ice, half Coca-Cola, half red wine. And they went, no. So she ordered her food, and then they asked if she wanted something to drink, and she said, can I have a Coke? And can I have a small glass of red wine? And they just looked at her and said, no, you can't. Go away. So, the Kalimotxo. It's a good combo of a little bit of alcohol, a lot of sugar. It is my favorite. End of the day, I'm tired, and I want a little sugar, and I want a little something to drink. It's an amazing taste. I hope you try it while you're there. Now, back on to the ramble. Bye. And I'm just going to go through the list again. So talking about number one, the amount of food available in Spain is ridiculous. Spanish food, I've heard a lot of people when I've talked to them about heading to Spain and the food, they always say, oh, is it like Mexican food? It's like, no. Spanish food is very much, it's its own thing. It's closer to continental or French-ish. It's very much a starch-based culture. Potatoes, bread. Bread comes with every darn meal. Usually like a baguette, but when you head further west past about Astorga, you're going to see these big Galician whole wheat loaves. They just give you a big slab cut off of it, cut a couple times, thrown into a basket. There's a restaurant, I don't know if I can find it again. There's a restaurant in Santiago where they had these big Galician whole wheat loaves that were, I mean, no exaggeration, they were a good, 30, 36 inches across, and they had bread saws that were like a yard long that they were cutting these things with. It was really, really cool looking. If I can find that, I'll include it in one of my favorite places. It's not in the Pilgrims area. It took us like a half an hour of walking to get to the place, and it was in the basement. Really cool. Anyway, lots of starch, potatoes everywhere. Every meal, you're going to have options for potatoes. If you like potatoes, you're going to love Spain. So in the mornings, you're going to have a chance for a good carb-laden meal. And I may, let me take a break here and just talk about carbs and how those are going to work in. I know there's a lot of keto people and carnivore people in the world. Y'all got your special thing. I'm going to let you do you. I still don't fully understand the science, like a geneticist. It's confusing, and I'm still not dead convinced it works for multiple week hikes, just because I can't figure out how the physiology works. But anyway, so your body burns a chemical for energy called glycogen. It is stored in your liver, your muscles, bit in your brain, just kind of all over the place. When you burn that glycogen due to exercise, And if you're an endurance athlete or you've ever done a lot of hard work in a day and you just reach that point where you're just like, it can be like a light switch turning off where you're just, I'm done. I have no more energy. My brain's not working. We're done for the day. That's when your glycogen has worn out. Now, it takes between 24 to 48 hours to fully re-uptake that glycogen into your system. Your body wants carbs to do that with. Calm down, keto people. Your body wants carbs to do that as its primary source for the glycogen reuptake cycle. How much you need depends on your body weight, how much exercise you're doing, XYZ. So it takes a long time to recharge that. So what you want to be doing is periodically through the day, as that glycogen level in your system is wearing down slowly, and it can wear out as fast as if you're doing a lot, if you're running a marathon or you're really fast hiking, it can wear out in 90 minutes. And then you've got the rest of the day to try to figure out how to keep going. So feeding little bits throughout the day of a good mixture of carb and protein. Just pure carb is not the greatest thing. Pure protein is not the greatest thing. They work synergistically, and the uptake is a little bit quicker if you've got a good carb to protein balance as you go. Strangely, peanut M&Ms or a candy bar with nuts is a pretty good proxy for what you want to have. I'm a big fan of apples as well. There's no protein in an apple, but I find a half an apple about every 90 minutes for me at the speed I hike, at my weight, my body style. It does help me keep going till I can get to lunch, get a good carb to protein balanced lunch, and then I keep going. I didn't talk about intermittent fasting, or the intermittent fasting folks. If you're used to eating one meal a day, it can be a little tricky. Just for an example, I did the math, I rubbed math all over it yesterday or day before. And so for me, if I walk at 220 pounds, if I walk 15 miles, hike 15 miles with my loaded pack through moderate hills, I know how many calories I burn. I know how many grams of glycogen I'm going to burn, XYZ. Okay. So if I'm intermittent fasting and I'm doing one meal a day, I'm going to have to consume for my base calories, plus the calories I've burned, plus enough goodness to get myself ready to go for tomorrow. So I'm not going to be dragging like a zombie because I got another 15 miles to do. I'm going to have to eat 6 to 8 chicken breasts and 9 cups of cooked white rice in one meal. I'm a big dude. I can't physically do that. But 4 times a day, if I had chicken and rice, chicken and rice, chicken and rice, chicken and rice, maybe chicken and rice for a snack, just as an example, it's not something you're going to eat on the Camino. It's just easier to get the amount of nutrition you need in to fuel that machine. It can be very tough if you're just doing 1 or 2 meals a day because of the sheer volume of calories and everything else you need to get into you. So just consider that. So anyway, a balanced carb to protein approach is a little easier to maintain. It fuels the machine and reloads the machine the most efficient way. If you're not into that, you just, do your carnivore, do your keto, adapt to where you have to. Let's talk about a little bit about the special diets if you have an allergen. Let's keep with the allergen for now. If you have a life-threatening allergy, pick up enough Spanish that you can read boxes when you go to the grocery stores. I think people are kind of familiar with, if you pick up a food package, you look around and you'll see a little line that says produced in a facility that processes tree nuts. or whatever it may be. Make sure you know what that is in Spanish. Or if you're going to start in St. Jean for the 40 minutes here in St. Jean in the morning, learn it in French, but learn it in Spanish. Become very, and you can look online, you can find lots of examples. I'm almost positive that in the travel forums for folks that have life-threatening allergies, you're going to be able to find the stuff you need. Be aware that there are small tiendas, markets. You're going to see candy stores everywhere. It's a part of Spanish culture that, you walk down, you have a nice little meal. On the way home, you stop at the little candy store, you get a piece of candy to eat on your way home. There's nut dust everywhere in those places because they have open bins of different nuts. So just, if you have those issues, be cautious. Again, if you're vegan or vegetarian, consider you may be cooking for yourself or preparing your own food quite a bit. You can find lots of ways to I don't mean get around that, but deal with those restrictions as you're going. Just consider that until you understand what Spanish food is, there may be eggs hiding in places you don't expect. I just watched a video the other day of a guy who was making a bean dish that had egg in it. I would never have guessed it would have had egg in it. So just kind of be aware, that's the reason to have that card. It is possible. I know I've met lots of vegans and vegetarians that do it, and they have a great time. If you are vegan or vegetarian, you guys, you can get all the starch and the carbohydrates into your system if you want. A bag of Doritos and a Coke, and you're kind of fine. But you're going to need protein to rebuild your muscles and your connective tissue as you go. It's not just about the carbs. You need that protein too. So if you're a vegan or vegetarian, your experience, you're going to know about getting the right glycemic, is that the word I'm looking for? The right amount, the right mix of amino acids that will bind the two groups together to get a complete protein. Beans and rice. Classic for the vegetarian and vegan community because they do bond together and they will provide you a complete protein that your body can process. Taking a BCAA supplement, branched chain amino acid, actually does nothing for you. Your body just processes those through. But concentrate on not just snacking on the easy starch stuff you're going to be able to find. Concentrate on finding those good sources of protein. I want to say in a lot of the bigger markets, the bigger towns, Pamplona, Logroño, Burgos, León, Ponferrada, the bigger towns, if you go to the markets, you're going to be able to find tofu and such. You're going to be able to find, I want to say that I've seen some non-dairy protein drinks available. I'm going to double check when I get there to see, because there's sort of an interesting revolution in inexpensive protein drinks available in Spain right now, which is good for everybody if you're into that. The other thing is, if you're worried about your protein intake and you're vegan or vegetarian, which you should be, consider taking a blender bottle with you, a shaker bottle with you. And at the pharmacies and grocery stores, you can find plant-based protein powders. So having that extra boost of, 20, 30, if you do it a couple times a day, 60 to 80 grams of protein into your system, it's going to keep your muscles, it's going to keep you healthy. The more protein you can get in, the more muscle you're going to keep instead of wasting that away. So just something to think about. Spanish culture, meal types and times, I feel like I kind of covered that. And we're going to talk a lot about that as we go into the spring when we talk about actual foodstuffs available. I can't emphasize enough, it's not American food culture. It's not their job to make sure you have what you're used to eating. It's your job to be there and experience a different culture. Those big American breakfasts, here's a secret. What we consider to be the American breakfast of bacon, eggs, toast, all of that. That was made up by a guy in, I want to say, the interwar years between World War I and World War II, a marketing guy named Edward Bernays. I can't remember the name of the meat company he was working for, but his whole goal was to develop a marketing campaign to get more people to buy bacon. So he went to the physician they had on staff at the company where he was working, the marketing company, and said, "Hey, is a nice big breakfast, is that healthy?" And the doctor said, "Sure, absolutely it is." And Bernays had this doctor write up a letter that said, "Do you agree that a good big breakfast is healthy?" Sent it to 500 fellow physicians around the United States. A vast majority of them went, "Why wouldn't it be?" Sure. Sent it back. And then Edward Bernays started this campaign to make breakfast the most important meal of the day. He literally just made it up. And I mean, prior to that, the usual American breakfast was coffee or tea, a piece of toast or a roll, some type of bread, a little bit of carb, a little bit of starch to get you going. And then you would have a large meal out in the fields or in the factory, a larger meal at noon, and then a larger meal in the evening. Breakfast was just not that big a deal until this guy made it up. So thank him when you're on the Camino and you can't find your bacon and eggs in the morning. It's one dude is responsible for it. Like I said before, you are going to be able to find some bacon and eggs. Famously, for us, when you come out of El Acebo and you get to Molina Seca, you're going to walk over the Roman Bridge. Beautiful. River going underneath. Really cool. So you walk over the Roman Bridge, take an immediate right off the bridge, not the street, the sidewalk. There's a restaurant right there that does a full English breakfast. Eggs, English-style bacon, baked beans, grilled tomato, grilled mushrooms. It's this giant plate of food. And when we stay in El Acebo, that we just usually have a cup of coffee and a piece of toast or something to get some energy for the morning. But that's our first stop when we cross the bridge, is to go in and then just sit there and go, I might die. I don't know if I can walk after this. But usually we're just going to Panferrada, which is another, I don't know, 6-7 miles, so it's not that big a deal. But anyway, you can find those, you are going to be able to find bacon and egg for breakfast. Oh, be careful. Spanish bacon, it's a lot of times not just made to the pork belly. They actually go up a little further to where the rib of the pork comes down. And there's little bits of cartilage in it, in the bacon. So be aware, even if you get a bacon sandwich, a lot of times the bacon has bits of cartilage, little nubbies in it. We call it Spanish bone bacon. It's delicious. It's fun. It's a good way to go. So your breakfasts are going to be like that. Lunchtimes, expect a lot of sandwiches and such. The Spanish, especially along the Camino route, a lighter lunch. You can get a hamburger or something. Some of the Spanish bars have world-class hamburgers. And man, I had a hamburger in, it was in 2024. Anyway, I can't remember what town it was. But me and the guy I was sitting with, kind of BSing with, we just said, can we have the hamburger and chips and fries? So they bring us these hamburgers, and they were gastropub level hamburgers. They were, that big, huge, fried egg on them, bacon, all the things that I'm not supposed to eat. They were just gigantic on a beautiful roll, freshly made, and they were €8. It was like, and I was looking at my friend Steve, and Steve goes, I live in Washington, D.C. He goes, this is a $30 meal where I come from. I was like, yeah, I know, it's crazy, but yeah, €8 or €9. So you're going to be able to find some good lunches. The Spanish sandwich, the bocadillo, it's everywhere. along the Camino, you're going to find it. Actually, they're everywhere in Spain. If you go down to Barcelona or Sevilla, Malaga, whatever, you're going to see those there too. But it's just a nice little, maybe half of a baguette. Spanish use baguettes. They're just like French baguettes. They're really delicious, good and crispy. Oh, if they're too crispy, here's a pro tip, because you will actually abrade your top palate of your mouth after eating these darn pieces of bread. Pro tip is if you take the first bite and it's really, really hard and crunchy, take the top of your bocadillo and flip it upside down and then eat it so you have the soft bread up. But you can grab extra if you just tell them you want, you want a sandwich for here and a sandwich to go to have a snack for later. They're more than happy to do that. It happens all the time. Evenings, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Most places are going to have a menu, and not necessarily a Pilgrim's menu, but a regular menu. It may not be available till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. They may just bring you a menu, and there's lots of stuff to choose from. One of the great things they do in Europe that we don't see here very much is called a prefixed menu. And it may be like a choice of 3 different appetizers, 3 different mains, and 3 different desserts, and a bottle of wine, maybe a bottle of water. Either or, sometimes both. For a reasonable price. It's a great way to experiment with Spanish food. You will also see the menu del dia, menu of the day, which is typically just maybe one thing, an appetizer, a main, or a dessert. You can split those up as well if you just want you want an appetizer and a main, but you don't need a dessert. A lot of times for a cheaper price, you can split that up. Again, we'll talk about that in depth in a really long video coming up in the spring. So yeah, that's about it. Like I said, this was just broad strokes talking about fueling the machine. Keep food in your system multiple times per day, whatever version of nutrition that you like, balanced diet, keto, carnivore, whatever works for you. If you have a challenging diet, carry those things you need with you. And man, if you're keto or carnivore, if you've never experienced canned fish, and I know it sounds weird because here in the States, canned fish are those horrible things that show up on pizza when you let your drunk brother-in-law, not my drunk brother-in-law, he's actually better than this, and he's not drunk, probably. They're the horrible things that nobody wants to eat here. The canned fish in Europe, in France, and Spain are amazing. The tuna, even canned tuna, tastes completely different than our tuna does here. So if you're keto or carnivore, get into those things. Go to the mercados, go to the tiendas, look for the canned fish, try them out. They are spectacular. It's actually one of the few times I'll do canned fish and stuff as part of my diet is when I'm there because it is so freaking good. And they're easy to carry around. As a matter of fact, the other thing that's easy to carry around, I should have said this at the beginning. So they have shelf-stable meals in Spain. We call them Spanish MREs. You know what? I will put a picture up there of some food I bought for €7. If I remember, I'm going to do this off the top of my head. It was a baguette, a sleeve of chorizo and sausage for making a couple of sandwiches out of, a sleeve of vanilla wafer cookies, 2 apples, and I think a little pasta shelf-stable meal. These shelf-stable meals they're not chemically laden, they're irradiated, which if you're not used to that, it's just they put it through some sort of magical Hulk smash machine. It comes out the other side. They're all over the place. Even the smallest tiendas are going to have these shelf-stable little meals. They microwave easily. You can heat them up in a stovetop. There's some that are intended to be eaten cold. I usually have 1 or 2 of those in my backpack for those times when maybe my timing for the restaurants isn't quite quite right. But again, we'll talk about that in depth, but just be aware that there's so many options for you. It's so different from what you're used to in the States, if you're from the States. Given the demographics of my videos, I'm assuming you are. Except for, like, there's 2 of you in Australia. Hi. So, pack food along. Carry an extra Ziploc bag or something to stuff some food into, carry some snackos with you, and you're going to do fine. And we're going to have a ball talking about Spanish food. I'm actually going to make a bunch of this table or the table out in our canning kitchen. I'm just going to cover with all the different versions of Spanish foods that you can expect to see for typical breakfasts, typical lunches, and then some fun stuff for dinner. So I'll make sure then you get a better view of what we're dealing with. So to wrap up, one of my favorite places. I'm going to put the name of the restaurant right here because I can't remember it off the top of my head. I just know it as the Pollo Asado restaurant in León, Spain. Pollo Asado, roast chicken. If you've had it in the States, you know, you get it at the grocery store, at Costco, whatever, it's fine. You get it in France or Spain. The way they cook them is they have these rotisseries where they'll load 6 or 8 of the chickens onto each, alongside, and it's on a spinning rotisserie with heat in the back. But they rack them, like there'll be 6 or 8 lines of them, and as they cook, they drip the chicken fat onto the ones below as it's turning, and it gets all crispy and stays juicy because the whole darn thing is self-basting. And then they'll swap the bottom one to the top one. Everybody goes down every once in a while. And then at the bottom, there's a bunch of French fries that the chicken fat is dripping onto, getting crispy. So this Pollo Asado place, it was closed when I was there in 2024. I was so bummed. The family went on vacation. I got there in early November, and they had gone on a week's vacation, so I didn't get to eat there. I've eaten there probably 10, 15 times at this point. So for somewhere around, I'll put the correct price on the screen somewhere here. I'll jump on Google Maps after I get done with this. So for somewhere between 10 and 15 euros, you can get a half a chicken, a giant pile of delicious fries, a giant salad, and like a bottle of water or something. And it is fantastic food. The family that runs it are super friendly, super kind, great people. And the food is just so darn simple. That's what's so great about it. There's nothing fancy about it. They've got a few other things if you want. They're a Middle Eastern family. I'm not sure from where. But they have really good hummus and some other stuff. When you get your meal, he then brings different sauces to put on the chicken and the potatoes, like Brava sauce, like a spicy pimento sauce, and some garlic aioli cream sauces. Just it's a phenomenal amount of food that's really good to refill you if you're heading on to wherever the next day. Anyway, so I'll put the name up again for a second time right here. And I've decided I'm not going to show you guys any Google Maps of where to find this stuff, because I kind of want you, if I mention a place in Pamplona or I mention a place in León or wherever, I want you to go on Google Maps and find it for yourself and look around the town a little bit. And it might be something interesting you enjoy. So that's it for this week. Next week, we're going to talk about hydration. Why it's important, how it works synergistically with our food consumption, because weirdly it actually does, and how to keep ahead of the dehydration curve, because you do not want to be dehydrated on the Camino. It leads to injuries. It leads to you just feeling depleted and sick, and just keeping up on it. And I've got some strategies of how to do that, when to do that, how to time a lot of your stuff, a lot of your fluid consumption, what you might consider consuming as you go, and just keeping healthy. And then I think the one after that will be health and safety, where we're going to talk about, how do you deal with prescription drugs, getting refills if you have to. Here's a hint: it's really rough. Used to be. How to travel with meds, just all of that kind of stuff. And then a little bit of health and safety things, like how much of a first aid kit do you need, how to check for bed bugs in albergues, and wash your hands a lot, really helps. And then after that, we're going to talk about sleep, because sleep works with all of this to make your Camino really great. So I'm going to go outside and watch them basically scoop up the remnants of my old house and put them in big dumpsters for a while, and work on editing this video. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.